any messengers whatsoever. However, when we turn to verse 23, what do we notice? When God passes to plague Egypt, and he sees the dam on the mashkof and the two mezuzot, he's going to skip the entrance, and he will not allow the destroyer, the mashchit, to come in. So you that's studying the Torah in a wholesome way, we don't just narrow-sided look at this pasuk, we try to see the big picture. And here what do we notice? That there's a destroyer. Okay? So is it true? Did God act alone? Or did he act through a destroyer? It's very unclear, and there's several meanings that I want to share with you that I see by my dear father, Rabbi Horowitz, in one of the great articles that he wrote. Who is this mashchit, the destroyer that appears here in verse 23? There are some that say that's natural death. The Sforno says this here. Natural death, meaning on that night, the night of the 15th, which we call later here, Leil Shimurim, a night of protection, as it appears there, the night of protection, no one died, not one Hebrew died from Bnei Yisrael. Even those that maybe should have died already because of old age, let's say. At the same time that there's not a house, that there's no screaming, there's in every house that they're screaming, and every house has a dead Egyptian, okay? Even in addition to the Bechor, there was also natural death to others. In other words, on the one hand, God was smiting every Bechor. However, the others that died, that we're talking about, were killed by the mashchit. What is the mashchit? Natural death. And that natural death was prevented to who? To Bnei Yisrael, exactly. That's how the Sforno explains it.
But was it like that the natural death also was increased on that day?
Yeah, that's how many more Egyptians died in addition to the Bechor. So, when Am Yisrael receives the commandment to take and smear the blood on the mashkof and on the two mezuzot of the Seh, the god, the idol of Egypt, we can now understand that out of God's love, that by doing so, we have a merit, and we're not going to be taxed by natural death that night. That night. And like the prophet, what we quoted, that you brought us so nice, Michal Aryeh, the words of Yechezkel in chapter 16, Va'omar lach, and I said to you, Bedamayich chayi, in your bloods, you're going to live. Which bloods? Through the blood of the Pesach and the blood of the Brit Milah. All this is for the sake of God's name, that there should not be a desecration of God's name in the eyes of the nations. Therefore, what do we see being demonstrated here? A clear line of demarcation, of separation. In the houses of Bnei Yisrael, tranquility, peace, quiet. Not even when they start moving later, not even the barking of dogs. However, in contrast, what's happening in every Egyptian house? Screaming. Everyone's in a state of fright, of fear, because there's dead people in every house. This is clear, the otzma, the terrific power of God that we're seeing here. Okay? That's one meaning brought by the Sforno to solve the contradiction between I'm doing it and the mashchit, the destroyer. Other commentators have brought an understanding that when we're talking about the strike of the firstborn, we're talking about a double type of fighting. Meaning, the first ones to come and smash the Egyptians were the destroyers. Who are they? They are angels, appointed by God to be executors of Makat Bechorot. They were prohibited, as you know, to enter into whose homes? Into Bnei Yisrael. Why? Blood there. The mashchit would not be allowed to enter the homes where they see blood at the doorsteps. However, the second type of killing that night was by Hashem, by himself, that God is smiting the firstborn, even of the father. Because it says, I'm going to pass that night and I'm going to smite kol bechor. The mashchit was smiting the firstborn from the mother. God himself added to it and was killing even the bechor, the firstborn of the father. And that settles that meaning here as well. As a result, gentlemen, when we go to verse 24, when we go to verse 17, ushmartem. No, I want to do one even earlier. We're told here laws of what will be later on for what's called Pesach Dorot, starting from verse 15 at least. No, 14. We now, inside this section of chapter 12, God commands us, as the Talmud says, what are the laws for future generations? Of course, they'll be repeated at Sinai because we're not going to be obligated to do Brit Milah or Pruvu unless we're told at Sinai, because all the mitzvot have to be told to a nation, not Adam HaRishon only, not Avram Avinu only. All the 613 mitzvot have to be taught to us from Sinai. But here already in the text, chapter 12, verse 14 and on, we have a new subject, and it's called Pesach Dorot, commandments for all future generations. I'd like to share with you quickly some basic commentary and understanding. So I'm reading quickly. Vayan, it'll be, meaning in the future. Hayom hazeh, this day, lachem lizikaron, a day for you of memory. V'chagotem, follow the Hebrew text, please. V'chagotem oto chag ladonai, you're going to celebrate, make it a happy day for the sake of God. For when? L'dorotechem, for all future generations. Chukat olam, it's a statute forever. Tichagu, and there are ways how to make it a chag. We'll learn later. Pasuk Tedvav, Shiv'at Yamim, Matzot Tochelu. There will be a contradiction later on in the book of Dvarim where it will say even 6 days. So decide, is it 7 days or 6 days? So the Talmud would explain, you can eat matzah if you want 7 days. But the first night is an obligation. You want to eat potatoes all the week? You can. You want to eat matzah? You can. You have reshut. You have permission to do so. But it's not obligatory. It's not chova. Very good. So shivat yamim matzot tochelu ach, but. You see the but? Bayom harishon tashpitu seor mibatechem. We're talking about Pesach for all generations. You must do away with, devour, seor, any yeast products that cause your grain to rise. When? I know it says Bayom Rishon, but the Talmud bothers to explain that this Bayom Rishon is not the first day of the 7 days of the holiday, but this Bayom Rishon is Erev Pesach. When? Ach. Ach is but. Divide the day into two, the Talmud says. The first part of the day from the morning until midday, you can have seor, you can have yeast, chametz in your property. But from chatzot, from noontime and on, it is forbidden. We have the positive mitzvah of devouring seor. What do we call that in our language today in Chazal? Bi'ur chametz. Doing away with chametz. The language that the sages used for the making of the benediction of the mitzvah to do away with the chametz. When we start doing the searching for the chametz, the bracha recite is Asher Kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al. I don't hear one more time. Bi'ur chametz, on the devouring of chametz. That is the fulfillment of this word tashbitu. Do away. When? From the half day of Erev Pesach. And then we're told, Ki kol ochel chametz, v'nichrata nefesh Yisrael, miyom harishon ad yom hashvi'i. Wow. Eating chametz is quite severe, isn't it? From the first day of the Yom Tov until the 7th day, it's a prohibition punishable by karet. being cut off spiritually from the people. Further, Pasuk Tet Zayin, verse 16. Uvayom Rishon Mikra Kodesh. You following the Hebrew? Uvayom Shvi'i Mikra Kodesh Iya Lachem. Kol Melacha Lo Yasavem Ach. But Asher Yachel L'chol Nefesh Hu Levado Yaseh Lachem. Gentlemen, did you ever find out what the source is? When in these 7 days is it a Yom Tov? Have you found the source? Mm-hmm. Where is it? Right here. Uvayom Rishon Mikra Kodesh. A calling out of holiness. If there's this day is holy, I'm not going to be able to do what? Melacha. Exactly. I'm not going to be able to do melacha. Why? Because it's holy. Who says so? He says so. Which day? Vayom Rishon. And then Uvayom HaShvi on the 7th day. Mikra Kodesh, it appears again. So now I know the source. The first day and the 7th day is called a Mikra Kodesh. And therefore the Torah says, Kol Melacha Lo Yasavehem. It seems to be quite absolute, doesn't it? Kol Melacha. However, there's a big but. Which is the word to teach us a but? Ach. But. Asher Yachel L'chol Nefesh Hu Levado Yaseh Lachem. Whatever is involved in preparing Ochel Nefesh, I repeat, whatever melachot are involved to prepare food for you on Yom Tov, it'll be permitted to be done. So for here we learn about preparing food, cooking, roasting, broiling food on Yom Tov will be permitted. This will be the source of this pasuk. Of course, we're going to learn in a different pasuk that lighting fire is prohibited. That's a different pasuk regarding Yom Tov. So from there we're going to learn that, okay, you have to light the fire or transfer the fire from an existing fire, light it before transfer. So these are the beginning of the laws. So please take into account when you're going to be adding more time. This chapter is so heavy, so important, so vital. It has a lot to do with the laws of Yom Tov, a lot to do with the laws of Matzah and Pesach, and so on and so forth. But our time is limited. We're going to treat one of the matters at the end of the Parsha. Are you aware that one of the sections of Tefillin appears in this Parsha? For that and more in tomorrow's Shiur.